Mercury Theater on the air. Before the performance begins, here is the director of the Mercury Theater, Orson Welles.
Good evening. Well, tonight it's back to Baker Street. Back to that unlikely London of the 19th century where high adventure awaits all who would seek it, in a hansom cab or under a gas lamp in an Inverness cape. For tonight we pay tribute to the most wonderful member of that most wonderful world. A gentleman who never lived and who will never die. Now, irrelevant as this may seem, we of the Mercury Theater are very much occupied these days with rehearsals for a revival of a fine old American farce. Its author was William Gillette, which reminded us, as it reminds you, of Sherlock Holmes. As everybody knows, that celebrated American inventor of underacting lent his considerable gifts as a playwright to the indestructible legend of the Conan Doyle detective, and produced the play which is as much a part of the Holmes literature as any of Sir Arthur's own romances, and as nobody will ever forget, he gave his face to him. For William Gillette was the aquiline and actual embodiment of Holmes himself. It is too little to say that William Gillette resembled Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes looks exactly like William Gillette.
I've admired other people in the role because it's such a good play. But William Gillette is the only real Sherlock Holmes for me, or for anyone else who ever saw him, I'm sure.
William Gillette is best remembered for Sherlock Holmes, a role he played for over 30 years. But when he created the great detective in 1899, he was already recognized as a celebrated playwright and a star. Entertaining audiences across the country, playing characters he'd written for himself, Gillette brought a greater sense of realism to the stage. As an actor, he rebelled against the stagey techniques of the 19th century and developed his own naturalistic method. As a playwright, he pioneered the development of American dramatic style. And as producer, he ushered the American middle-class audience into the theater. Today, his performances exist only as still photos, scrapbooks, reviews, and voice tapes. His film portrayal of Sherlock Holmes has been lost, but his plays and technical contributions to stagecraft survive. His grandest set was his final home, a jagged rock castle which still stands high above the Connecticut River. Gillette's distinctive personality developed during his boyhood in Hartford, about 30 miles north of the castle, where he was born in 1853. His mother was a direct descendant of Thomas Hooker, the Puritan minister who led 17th century settlers to Connecticut. His father was a founder of the Republican Party in Connecticut, chairman of the state's first Board of Education, and a United States Senator. The youngest of 6 children, Will grew up at Nook Farm, a progressive community of writers and social reformers, including Harriet Beecher Stowe, author of the provocative anti-slavery novel Uncle Tom's Cabin, her half-sister and Will's aunt, Isabella Beecher Hooker, a national leader for women's rights, and her husband, John, a prominent attorney. Shortly before Will left home, Samuel Clemens, better known as Mark Twain, took up residence at the farm. Although boys from prominent families usually attended college, Gillette shocked family and friends when he insisted on going on the stage. For 7 years, he played with touring and stock companies in the Midwest and East, learning his trade both as actor and craftsman.
Sunday, September 7th, 1873, St. Louis, Missouri. My dear Sister Sophie, I am real lonely out here. I don't think homesick exactly. It is a great comfort to take walks in various places. I went to an old cemetery and found lots of curious old inscriptions. There is nothing that will cheer a fella up so nice when he feels downhearted or hasn't had enough breakfast as a good old graveyard. It is just good for me to knock around this way. I have already learned a good deal of the manners, customs, rules of stage life. The tragic walk, the correct and dreadful laugh, the carefully learned gesture. I have begun working in earnest, and it isn't so extremely bad, though I have noticed pleasanter things. I dislike so these sensational pieces that are mostly played down here. However, it is tolerable, and I think it will do me good for a while at least.
Gillette was unwilling to conform to these tricks of the stage and created his own unique underacting style. His technique was based on a lesson he learned in high school. After practicing long and hard, he had won first prize in an oratory contest when he intoned Daniel Webster's speech defending the Union from secession. But his father, a great speechmaker himself, did not like his delivery.
Didn't I do it right? I asked my father. Of course you did it right, he growled. That's the matter with it. Do you suppose if Webster had done it right, anybody in the Senate would have listened to it for 2 minutes? Well, he made me see Webster, hunting for the right words, searching for the thing to say and the strongest way to say it, hesitating, then going on.
Can't hold I in fury of battles. We can't hold I in the roaring glory of battle, Miss Varney. We can't hold I in the roaring glory of battle, Miss Varney. Some of us.
The actor must let his thoughts occur to him as he goes along, even though they are there in his mind already, and to search and find the words by which to express these thoughts, even though these words are at his tongue's very end.
Some of us have orders. Can't hold I in the roaring glory of battle, Miss Varney, with our friends around us, under the flag we love. Some of us...
Gillette also believed that every actor must bring the power of his own personality to whatever role he plays. He later published an essay, The Illusion of the First Time, which incorporates these concepts. Today, actors take this realistic style for granted.
You must find your truth, your inner truth within yourself, and then you have found the role. Well, once you have found that inner truth, then you have to find the best way, the very best way to communicate it to the audience, because that's what you're there for, communication. And Gillette knew about that totally.
Gillette's first effort as a professional playwright was an original comedy called The Professor. He was not only the author, but also the producer, scene designer, and star. After a premiere in Hartford, he took the show on the road, but almost went under, until Mark Twain helped him out financially.
Mr. Clemens is going in with me, and we will give the professor a start before many weeks. He seems to like the idea of taking the risk. I know this will delight you.
The Professor opened in New York in 1881. Gillette played an absent-minded professor summoned to a resort by his aunt, who desires him married and settled.
Professor, come here and sit down.
Thank you, I will.
Well, you got my letter, didn't you?
I did.
And did you agree with me?
On the subject of my getting someone to marry me.
Yes, you're getting on in life, you know.
Yes, I know. People generally do, you know, if they live long enough. Well, I've thought it over, and it seems to me a very good idea.
And there's such a fine opportunity here. A really nice young lady. A really fine opportunity. The one I mentioned in my letter, you know.
Yes, I remember the letter, but what do you mean by such a fine opportunity? What is it?
Oh, she's beautiful and accomplished. and very rich.
Oh, that's it.
Now, if you could just as well marry someone with money as someone
Yes,
without,
I know.
you know.
I can just as well as not. It's a small matter.
And just think how nice and pleasant it will be to have a dear, loving little wife to warm your slippers for you. And
To what?
your slippers, you know, toast them by the fire.
Toast them? Toast my slippers? Oh, that's what they do, is it? Well, let me see. I suppose I shall have to get another pair. I have only one.
What do you want with another?
Well, I want a pair to wear.
Yes?
And I suppose I want another pair for her to cook.
No, you don't quite understand. She'll warm them for you every morning before breakfast.
Oh, I see. Yes, we'll have them warmed over for breakfast every morning.
With its American settings, characters, and dialogue, Gillette tailored the professor to appeal to the middle-class audience he wanted to attract to the theater.
I'll see to your washing and your mending, comb your head.
Comb my...
Continuing to write with this audience in mind, he adapted a series of European comedies, but embellished upon the current custom by giving these plays a wholesome American charm. Produced in New York and London, some of them succeeded while others flopped. But he was making money and a reputation for himself. Always willing to experiment, Gillette began to write melodramas. He produced Held by the Enemy, which many theater historians refer to as the first successful play about the American Civil War. To heighten the play's realism, he designed spectacular stage effects, like exploding stone walls and lighting through stained glass windows. The play was both a critical and financial success in New York, London, and on tour. Just before his 29th birthday, Gillette married Helen Nichols, whose only connection with the theater was the rough life of touring the country that she shared with her husband. But tragedy struck when, after only 6 years of marriage, Helen died suddenly of a ruptured appendix. Gillette's life collapsed totally. He left the stage and disappeared to Tryon, North Carolina, where for 5 years he lived in seclusion. He occupied his time fitfully, taking long solitary walks and improving his rustic cabin. He continued to write plays, but was unable to share his sorrow.
I am close to being a wreck, physically, mentally, morally, and in every other way that there is. It really doesn't make any difference what I do or how I live, behave, or have my being. All I can say is something is busted within. I cannot really go on.
Gillette returned to the stage in Too Much Johnson. In his early works, he always played the comic figure, but in his 40s, he assumed the role of the hero in his Civil War melodrama, Secret Service. Gillette was now Captain Thorne, a dashing gentleman with whom ladies fell in love, a courageous adventurer who young men wanted to become. The center of the drama is one of his familiar silent scenes. A spy behind Confederate lines, Thorne gains access to a telegraph office to signal Union troops.
I said to him something about the wonderful notices, and he looked shocked and said, "You don't read those things." And I said, "Yes, I but they were great, Mr. Gillette." He said, "Never, never, never do that, because by the time you open in New York, there's nothing they can tell you that will help you. It's happened. You've done the opening night, and it's for better or worse, it's happened. So there's nothing they can say to you that will be of help to you, good or bad. You mustn't ever read them. Let your director tell you the bad things, and let your own heart tell you the good things about yourself."
The popular success of Secret Service established Gillette as a matinee idol. But offstage, he led a reclusive life, vacationing in Tryon, taking midnight strolls in Central Park, and staying on board his houseboat, the Aunt Polly.
He was a mysterious man. One never knew sometimes that he was in the room. He would come in so quietly and be so still. People knew nothing about his movements. He was almost surreptitious in the way he padded about backstage, as if he didn't want to be a real presence until he entered.
Ironically, this man of mystery's greatest triumph was his dramatic interpretation of Sherlock Holmes. He conceived his melodrama as a series of traps. He established the illusion of the fourth wall. By placing a gas lantern downstage, the audience felt that they were seeing into a closed room. He created lighting effects never before used on the stage. When he took his play to London, his performance convinced even the English that he was Sherlock Holmes. The tall, aristocratic Gillette, with his long, bony face and hawk nose, became the definitive model for the master sleuth.
He seemed so fragile, a very frail man. And because of the role of Sherlock Holmes, the rumors spread about whether or not he was a cocaine addict or whatever, you know, because he was so frail looking, so drawn. Oddly enough, I didn't see him in that until after I'd known him for some time. It was an indelible recollection. That strange voice, that rather, it's like the E string of a violin. Strange, haunting voice, perfect for comedy, perfect to ping over a comedy point. And that wonderful curtain, "Don't come a step further." Remember that voice that came after that? No one else could possibly reach the perfection, the pinnacle that he did in that role with that particular voice.
How did I know? How do I know anything? Elementary, my dear fellow, elementary. The child's play of deduction. I'm only doing it for your amusement, you know. My dear fellow, it's perfectly delightful. My whole life is spent in a series of frantic endeavors to escape from the dreary commonplaces of existence.
Gillette's ingenuity and craftsmanship in creating greater reality on the stage was complemented by his lifelong interest in mechanical gadgets.
I am not a poet, architect, painter, philosopher, or literary man. And there is nothing in plays I have written that has value off the stage. The play does not even exist until it appears in the form of simulated life. The true purpose of the play is to hold the mirror up to nature, meaning, of course, human nature. The play is a series of more or less ingenious traps, independent yet interdependent, and so arranged that while yet trapping, they carry forward the plot or theme without a break. It is a puzzle. If all the pieces do not fit accurately, the puzzle does not make just the right impression.
Gillette's career as a playwright peaked at the turn of the century. The audience of the day was now interested in greater psychological complexity.
The dramatic trap that would work like a charm not long ago may not work at all today. The successful trap of today may be useless junk tomorrow.
He continued to triumph as an actor, most notably in the sentimental plays of J.M. Barrie. In The Admirable Crichton, he starred as the butler who becomes the ruler on a desert island. And in 1918, in Dear Brutus, he portrayed a childless artist who dreams he has a daughter, played by Helen Hayes, now the First Lady of the American Theater.
I was close to losing that job because the director from England, B. Iden Payne, decided that I was not right. I was speaking with an accent he didn't like and didn't understand. So Mr. Gillette saved me. He came down to the footlights when Mr. Payne was chewing me out and said, this young lady has a slight southern accent, and with your permission, she and I will work in the evenings on our scene, presumably to correct the accent, but oh, he corrected so many other things while he was about it, without being officious, without discouraging me, without frightening me. He dearly loved me, and I certainly loved him, and revered him. In some mysterious way, he aroused my sense of make-believe to the point that I felt within myself that might have been daughter of that artist. And our relationship was absolutely, I'm sure, the relationship that J.M. Barrie, in writing the play, had envisaged. I know that, that it happened between us, like a great love scene. Gillette was the one who broke that awful habit of having curtain calls between acts so that people would be left in the middle of a crisis and then have to come out and make take silly bows in front of the curtain or on the set, where the crisis was in the course of happening. Well, anyway, he had the curtains at the end of the play, and I came on from my bow with him after all the other characters had bowed, and he brought me out, and then having had my bow with a star in the Empire Theater at that fabulous opening night, in those days everybody was dressed for openings, you know, and having had my bow, I started to run off, and he wouldn't let go, and he held me there, and we took 18 curtain calls with me standing beside him. Oh, I was so... It was a great experience for a girl. And what a beautiful, generous gesture. He shared the success with me. I remember visits to the castle in Connecticut, known to some of his contemporaries as Gillette's Folly.
Gillette purchased over 100 acres in Hadlime and built his home high above the Connecticut River. He designed every nook and cranny of his 24-room castle and named it Seventh Sister for the hill on which it stands. Constructed of native granite, he playfully called it his Hadlime Stone Heap.
We went up for a weekend, and our room was right next to Mr. Gillette's. In the middle of the night, we heard sounds of terrible altercation in his room. Voices raised. Quarrel going on. And suddenly, the door was flung open, and something hurled out onto the balcony outside, and there was a thump as of a falling body, and then silence. The next day at breakfast, he said, I hope I didn't disturb anyone last night. I was writing a scene, second act climax, and I had to act it out to get the right rhythm, the right timing for it. And I hope that I didn't disturb anybody's sleep. He looked around the table, and there was a mischievous, devilish look in his eye. He knew darn well he had ruined our night's sleep.
Dear Joseph, I have given up Christmas. Since they took to fighting in the public prints as to whether anybody slept with the Virgin Mary or not, it seems to me decently clean people ought to draw the line. Come on over to New Year's. It's just as good and without the filth. Also, it saves me 1 week's interest on the money. Yankee to the last, Cousin William.
Ever since I was an infant, and for all I know before, I've had the idea that I'd like to drive a locomotive. People didn't tell me that I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth, but I've often heard that I was born with a steam engine in my mouth. And at last, I've got one. I had to build one so as to drive it. It's a long while since that occurred, but now I've got my wish at last. And I'd like to see if some of you would like to come and take a ride, or maybe. We'll have a little ride around the place. What do you say? All right, we'll do it. Good thing, yes. All right. Goodbye.
William Gillette lived to be 83. Today, the castle is a state park filled with exhibits reflecting his illustrious career and his unique personality. His dramatic style and technical innovations are still an important part of our American theatrical tradition.